The Taínos were the most important cultural group of the Greater Antilles in the Caribbean and part of the Lesser Antilles from around the year 1200 until 1500 of our era. They descended from the Arawak peoples of South America, and they spoke a language that, although now extinct, left numerous words in Caribbean Spanish, which would later pass on to other Western languages. Stay to explore 10 words that you probably use frequently without knowing that they are of Taino origin. Number 1. Hurricane. Both the Mayan and Taino cultures use this term to describe the massive storms that struck their territories at certain times of the year. So there is currently a debate about who used it first. The version that supports the Taino origin cites what appears to be the first Castilianization of this word in the accounts of the historian Gonzalo Fernández de Oviedo about the Great Hurricane of 1508.
Huracan, in the language of this island, literally means storm or tempest. Very excessive because in fact it is nothing else but extremely strong wind and extremely heavy rain. Any or all of these things.
This word is also documented in the Chronicles of the Indies, collected by Pedro Martir de Ingleria, explaining that this was the case, how the natives of Hispaniola, what is now Haiti in the Dominican Republic, used to call storms. Number 2. Hammock. A hammock is defined as a piece of netting or strong, elongated canvas that is stretched out and hung by its ends, so you can lie on top of it to rest or sleep. The word hammock comes from the Arawak word maca from the Taino culture, which means a piece of cloth, while the prefix a indicates the action of hanging. The Spanish chronicler Bartolomé de las Casas, in his work A Short Account of the Destruction of the Indies from 1552, wrote,
Their beds are on top of a mat, and at most they sleep in something like nets hanging up, which in the language of the Spanish island they called hammocks.
It can be historically traced that the word hamaca passed from Spanish to English in its form hammock in documented chronicles from 1556, and also to Italian as hamacca number 3. Guava. This tropical fruit, well known in the countries of America, owes its name to the Bostana guajiava, which was later adapted into Spanish around the year 1526 as guayaba, through the work of the Spanish historian Gonzalo Fernández de Oviedo, titled Summary of the Natural and General History of the Indies. The historian describes it this way:
The guava tree is attractive, and its leaf resembles the mulberries but is smaller. When in bloom it smells great, especially the flowers of a certain type of these guava trees. It produces apples that are denser than the apples here and heavier, even if they are the same size. And they have a lot of seeds, or rather, they are full of very small and hard grains.
Number 4. Cacique. The Dictionary of the Royal Spanish Academy defines the word cacique as the ruler or chief of a community or people of American indigenous people. This term comes from Arawak, spoken by the Taino culture, and it is associated with the verb cacicoen, which can be interpreted as to have or maintain a house, and it is related to the word usequa, which means house. The first document that spread this word in the Old World was the diary of Cristobal Colon himself, around the end of the 15th century.
He sent some Christians back to the town, and in exchange for some glass beads, they obtained some pieces of gold worked into thin sheets. They saw someone whom Admiral Cristobal considered to be the governor of that province, whom they called Cacique.
Number 5. Corn. This food, popular in the many typical culinary preparations of Spanish-speaking countries, also owes its origin to the Taino, although corn is a plant native to Mexico. This word does not come from any of the 68 national indigenous languages of that country, but from the Taino word magis. And it was also documented by Christopher Columbus on his voyage to America in 1492, which is why it is considered one of the first Taino words introduced into the Spanish language. The term magus literally means that which sustains life, since it was also one of the main food staples of the Mesoamerican and Caribbean cultures. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell so you know when there's a new video. Number 6. Canoa. This word went down in history as the first Americanism documented in the dictionaries of Peninsular Spanish from the late 15th and early 16th centuries. A canoe is defined as a relatively small vessel that moves by human power using paddles called oars. Canoes are pointed at both ends and usually open at the top. Christopher Columbus documented this word for the first time in his logs in 1492. The word canoe is a Spanish adaptation by the Spanish explorers of the word canoa, made up of cana, which means to dig or hollow out, and hew, which means tree. So, canoa can literally be interpreted as hollow or empty tree. Number 7. Aji. Aji is the name given to the fruit of the capsicum plant in the countries of South America, the Caribbean, and Panama. And in other countries, like in Central America or Mexico, it is known as chili or hot pepper. In Spain, it is usually called guindilla. The word aji comes from the Taino word haxi or haxi in the spelling of late medieval and modern Spanish. The letter X had a sound similar to the sh in English, and later it became the J sound, which is how you know it today. The first mention of this word in Spanish was made in Columbus's logs on January 15, 1493.
There is also mushoashi, which is her pepper, which is worth more than pepper, and everyone does not eat without it, as it is considered very healthy.
Number 8. Iguana. Iguanas are a genus of scaly reptiles from the Iguanidae family, belonging to the class Sauropsida, which inhabit the tropical areas of North America, the Caribbean, and South America. The word iguana comes from the Taino word iguana, where the W was later changed to a G in Spanish. It is believed that the Spaniards were introduced to it. When they arrived at the Caribbean islands for the first time in 1492, but the first person to officially document it was the writer Pedro Martir de Angleria. In his work Decades of the New World, which he wrote between the years 1511 and 1530. Later, this word would jump from Spanish directly to other languages such as English, Portuguese, Italian, and French. Number 9, Caiman. Caiman is the word used to refer to the genus of crocodiles from the alligator family, commonly known as caimans or yacarés. They are found in the subtropical and tropical regions of the American continent, from Central America to the southern region of South America. The ancient inhabitants of the Santillana Islands knew this animal by the name acayuman, which the Spanish later adapted to the name caiman as a kind of abbreviation. Since then, the word became part of the popular vocabulary of the Spanish language and was later exported to other Western languages, with minor pronunciation and spelling differences. Number 10, Sabana. Once again, you'll be surprised that the word Sabana comes from Taino, and it refers to those vast plains with little tree vegetation and abundant herbaceous plants in subtropical and tropical areas, like the ones we find in Africa and some regions of South America and Australia. In the native language, the word savana was used to refer to a plain without trees. And soon, this was recorded in the chronicles of Pedro Martir de Angleria as Savannah, and later its spelling was modified until it reached its final form, Savannah, in the 18th century. And which of these words surprised you the most? If you know any other word of Taino origin, write it in the comments. And that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I invite you to also turn on the notification bell so you'll know when there's a new video. See you soon.